Hi there, I'm Maddie Grant, and my presentation for you today is How Smart Nonprofits Do Blogger Outreach Right. Thanks for joining me today, whether you're from a nonprofit, association, or just interested in this topic. So who am I? The most important thing you need to know about me is that I'm a blogger. Here's my full bio on the slide, if you can read it, and you will get the reason why I put this up here in just a minute. I'm lead editor for socialfish.org, which is a large association and nonprofit industry social media blog. At Socialfish, we have about 30 bloggers who write about all kinds of social media related topics, including things like how to use particular social media tools, case studies and data about associations and nonprofits using social media well, opinion pieces about social business and digital culture, all kinds of things, but targeted to a specific nonprofit and association audience. And here's why all of that is important. If you're a nonprofit with a campaign of some kind, it's very possible that I am your target. I could be described as an influencer by virtue of the fact that I run this very large blog with a wide audience of people interested in what nonprofits are doing online. Now, I'm not necessarily a topical influencer. I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to what causes or what industry verticals we talk about on the blog. But if you're running a quit smoking campaign or a Save the Whales campaign, for example, I'm not particularly interested in healthcare specifically or in marine animals specifically, but I am interested in all kinds of nonprofits and how they use social, including healthcare associations and other animal cruelty related nonprofits. So I could be a useful influencer for reaching organizations that can help you spread the word about your particular cause. So, how would you actually know that about me? Well, assuming you found me through an online search for relevant keywords, or through a social media monitoring system or blogger outreach platform like GroupHigh, you would land on my homepage at socialfish.org. From here, there are 4 simple ways to see what we write about. The first way is obvious. A quick glance at the posts on the homepage will tell you a lot. In this particular screenshot, which I know is pretty small, you can see posts about Pinterest, about content marketing, a case study about why nonprofits should spend money on Facebook advertising, an association video that went viral, and a post about community management fundamentals, along with a bunch of links to related content. The second way is by looking at our books that are prominent on the top right sidebar. Just by looking at the titles, you can see what we care about the most. The top one, the red one, is called Humanize: How People-Centric Organizations Succeed in a Social World. And the bottom one is called Open Community: A Little Book of Big Ideas Navigating the Social Web. The third way to see what we write about is through the About Us page. It's the next tab over from where the books are. It spells out right there in black and white what we write about on Socialfish. And I quote, "We are authors and speakers on social media strategy, and our Socialfish blog is the biggest industry social media blog for associations and nonprofits. We have a whole team of regular guest bloggers writing for us on social strategy, social media, and community management and implementation, social theory, social business, and lots of other topics that interest us and push our industry forward." And finally, just in case you hadn't figured it out yet and wanted more specifics, you could look at the categories we write about. Obviously, clicking on any of these categories will bring you to a list of all the posts in each category, so plenty of content to give you a good idea of what we're all about. Ultimately, though, the best way to reach me is to build a relationship with me. I'm on Twitter, of course, and I would think every blogger you might want to reach is. I'm easy to find, and I'd like nothing more than to chat with you there. It only takes a couple of tweets to start getting to know each other, especially if you start with something like, quote, "I like what you wrote about in this particular post," unquote. Here's a secret. All bloggers respond well to flattery, in my opinion, as long as the flattery shows that you actually read our stuff. So bearing that in mind, I thought I'd show you some examples of nonprofit pitches that did make it onto my blog. As you can imagine, I get a ton of these pitches and only a select few get chosen. But the reasons they get chosen are pretty simple. Here's the first one, the Blue Key campaign. This was a campaign by USA for UNHCR asking people to buy a blue key to show support for work helping refugees. For this one, the ask came from a PR person that I already knew. We're both from Washington, D.C., and she had reached out and introduced herself at an event, and we'd already met on Twitter. Also, she was representing a trusted organization. When I get a lot of pitches, I will tend to pay more attention to those that seem legitimate and trusted over those from organizations I've never heard of or people emailing me from Yahoo or Hotmail emails. Sorry, I know that sounds snobbish, but I'm being honest. They also provided lots of blogger resources, including visuals, videos, testimonials, and this cool virtual book with first-hand stories from refugees. These are all things that I could use and point to in my blog post. And finally, they had a very simple call to action. Buy a blue key for $5, which was something I knew I could invite my audience to participate in without asking for too much. Next example is Give to the Max Day. This was a one-day event, a giving day, where a bunch of nonprofits could band together to fundraise, a bunch of local nonprofits. What interested me about this one was that it was a collective effort. So I, as a blogger who reaches out to nonprofits, who has an audience of nonprofits, I could potentially use this post to help a bunch of nonprofits at once. Also, it was a local effort, all about raising money for nonprofits in Washington, D.C., where I'm based. So that made it even more relevant to me. And finally, they once again provided a ton of blogger resources, including this media toolkit with logos and widgets and badges on the right. But here's an interesting thing. They listed us bloggers on their main website and named us activators, meaning that in exchange for our help in advising on the direction of the campaign and in helping to promote the campaign, they gave us not only a real role, but also recognition. And even more than that, they used social proof. So in other words, if we were part of a team helping to make this happen, then we weren't about to let the rest of the team down by not doing our part. So that's a pretty genius move. Next example is the Do-Gooder Video Awards. This one, actually, like all of them, had a strict time factor involved. So first, asking for nonprofits to submit videos to be judged, then for people to vote on the submissions, then for the actual awards announcement. For me, the value factor was to be able to reach many nonprofits at once, like with Give to the Max Day, and potentially help nonprofits reap the rewards from participating in the awards, like lots of views on their videos, and then for the winner to be on the homepage of YouTube and potentially get millions of views. So this was topically interesting from a social media perspective, as well as just simply from a helping nonprofits perspective. And of course, obviously, a nonprofit video award campaign had a ton of videos that I could post. I'm assuming that by this point you're kind of sensing a theme. The more visual stuff I can use as a blogger, the better. Okay, for my final example, the N10 50,000 campaign. This one is actually still running, but this appealed to me because I happen to be a member of N10, the Nonprofit Technology Network, which is an association for nonprofit technology people. We're celebrating 50,000 members this year and are trying to raise $50,000 so we can help many more nonprofits. Now for this one, I was asked to participate in a CrowdRise campaign, so personally be part of the team that pledged to help raise money. This, as you can probably tell, goes way beyond just posting a blog post. However, it's also obvious that as someone who has a platform for spreading the word about things like this, it's inextricably linked to my ability to bring in a large audience. But in particular, this happens to be an association I love very much and I'm deeply involved with. So there's definitely a what's in it for me factor. I want to show that I'm doing my part as a member. So the lesson here would be to find those champions who are already in your community, already in your online universe, people who already care about what you're doing. They'll be influencers in that group of people. So here's my conclusion. I could have added a bunch of slides about bad pitches or what not to do, but I think it all boils down to this. Do your homework. Don't pitch me blind. Know what I care about as a blogger, and most importantly, figure out what would help me bring value to my readers. Ultimately, that's the only thing that matters to bloggers. That's it. Thank you. I'd love to hear from you. The best way to reach me is through Twitter @MaddieGrant. And I would especially love to hear from you if you work for a nonprofit or association and have good stories to tell. I'm always looking for case studies as well as for guest bloggers. So there's my pitch. Thank you.